The United Power of Knowledge 2015 proposal submission for the National Endowment for the Humanities grant. My name is Rhen. I am the founder of the United Power of Knowledge. The United Power of Knowledge is looking to implement an open source application which will provide both medical resource locations as well as information for impoverished individuals in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This will diagnose and treat sexually transmitted diseases within that region. This endeavor is critically necessary as recent surveys have indicated over the last 2 years, rapes have increased in Sao Paulo by 157%. This increase is at minimum socially disturbing and at worst a death sentence for victims, who will face both social stigma and injury. No human should be shamed and left to suffer because of their inability to network critical medical resources. In this presentation, we will discuss the organizational background, our statement of need, problem-solving approach for which we have taken, current situation, existing environmental conditions, project history, outcomes and impact, and finally evaluation and dissemination plans. When I founded the United Power of Knowledge in 2015, it was my vision to transcend financial barriers that limit access to information to the impoverished. It is our organizational belief that open access to informational resources will cultivate an improved status of life for the impoverished. According to DoSomething.org, in this heavily impoverished area of Sao Paulo, Brazil, there exists only one book for every 300 students. The United Power of Knowledge has established proven results within the United States, garnering both local and national acclaim for a domestic open source application. It is our vision to implement this free resource, which will provide medical information in regard to sexually transmitted diseases in Sao Paulo, Brazil. In what will be an expansively outreaching endeavor, United Power of Knowledge is proposing the international implementation of our open source application in Sao Paulo, Brazil, allowing citizens of Brazil to identify, treat, and prevent sexually transmitted diseases. The funds required would aid in the creation and research associated with this piloting endeavor, ensuring that only the best resources and information are made available. This application will incorporate elements concurrent to our domestic model, such as the ability to navigate individuals to medical professionals who work specifically with the impoverished. With statistics showing that on average 16 rapes occur per day in this region, privacy is critical to victims, and funding will allow for the expansive research, ensuring that all demographic needs are met to our organizational high standards. This is pivotal to our success and pivotal to the success of this endeavor. Social stigma associated with rape and sexually transmitted diseases is a global problem, thus resulting in many victims remaining silent as they slowly suffer without treatment. Our application allows for the anonymous means for those afflicted to seek treatment and additional support, offering them the social support that they would otherwise not receive in public. In Brazil, the most significant problem is men and women remaining silent victims as they slowly decay from their conditions. The rape of men in Brazil is very common and also met with significant stigma, and without proper treatment, AIDS and HIV can turn a common cold into a death sentence for the victim. Ensuring that the locations noted on our maps are reputable and understanding of the privacy is paramount to our success. This has been part of our problem-solving approach, allowing victims to exit the dark and receive the help and treatment they need. Sexual assaults have become so common in Sao Paulo that the Overseas Security Advisory Council warns tourists prior to entering the area. In a location rife with police corruption and gender double standards, it's no surprise that on average 16 rapes occur per day. Locals have even begun spiking the drinks of tourists who report waking up during or after the commission of a sexual assault, both dazed and confused. These sex crimes provide opportunity for the spread of disease. This is a situation that is not isolated to the novice traveler. While sexual crimes against men and women are balanced statistically, in terms of frequency, women have far less protection under this male-powered society. According to an autobiography written by Mary de Jesus entitled Child of the Dark, rapes would often occur late at night as men and women traveled to their designated areas of the slum to defecate or urinate. Due to the lack of public restrooms and septic disposal, the women and men of these areas are given little choice to chance the risk of being raped as they attempt to relieve themselves, as any human being has the right to do. Students studying abroad in this area have reported abysmal double standards as well. Specifically, when women report a sexual assault to authorities, they are often ignored. In a recent account of a female student enrolled at the Medicine College of Sao Paulo, local law enforcement agencies barely made an effort to investigate a rape. She was held against her will and sexually assaulted by members of an all-male fraternity. Aside from sexually transmitted diseases, the emotional trauma is another critical element, which is often overlooked and ignored when discussing the trauma of sexual violence. The stigma of mental health is a global problem and usually results in a person suffering from an illness not receiving proper treatment. Census data continues to showcase this trending problem. However, those impacted by untreated mental illnesses such as depression often succumb to taking their own lives. Another sobering statistic monitored by census data shows that in 2013, Sao Paulo's suicide rates are rising at an alarming rate. 6,002 suicides occurred at a rate of 4.6 per 100,000 in Sao Paulo. While sex is often the mitigating factor for the transfer of disease, it is not the only isolated means. Hepatitis C is an example of a blood-borne disease that is transferred beyond common sexual intercourse. Sao Paulo, Brazil, they are seeing an increase in needle use for intravenous drugs. Crack cocaine has begun to flood the streets. Now, while crack cocaine can be brought into the body various means, the use of intravenous administration of crack cocaine gives the abuser a more prolonged high, thus a stronger euphoria. We're seeing the sharing of needles throughout Sao Paulo, the increase in hepatitis C. We're seeing HIV, AIDS. All of these are both available to receive through sex. However, they're also available to receive if you're sharing needles. Obviously, in this impoverished location, the price of needles warrants that they are going to share rather than get a new needle for every time that they're looking to get high. The reuse of needles is concurrent with sexual partners in that you never know truly who has been with it prior. Introducing a new means of transfer these diseases only inflames the likelihood that an individual will contract a disease with a sexual partner. Therefore, if somebody's, say, using a drug, they're also likely having sexual intercourse. The drug becomes involved within the actual sexual act and transfer of disease in that way. The networking with area care providers will allow us to be more proactive in directing individuals to proper care facilities to receive treatment that they need anonymously, so that they are not seeing the correspondence between being seen and the fallout socially. The ideology behind the cell phone application allows clients to utilize disposable phones, which are prevalent in that area, and avoid using populated cafes where, again, they have the potential of being under scrutiny of others. A regionally customized open source database targeting sexually transmitted diseases in a totality specific to that region will allow our organization to maintain a pulse on improvements, the escalation of issues as they come up throughout the particular area. Therefore, this project has a lot of innovation and actually keeps a pulse socially on the trends, not only with sexually transmitted diseases, but with bloodborne diseases and the use of drugs within that area, thus leading to the spread of these diseases. Lifting the veil that allows for social stigma to grow can only be accomplished by illuminating the facts. This humanitarian endeavor will impact the need to address the stigma of sexually transmitted diseases. Our organization will change the environment of the silent victim by promoting conversation about these taboo topics. Returning the power to those afflicted will promote an environment of self-help, which will undoubtedly transcend into other aspects of these individuals' lives. Creating a community environment for those afflicted will also spread awareness and prevention. Tracking the diminishment of sexually transmitted diseases will provide long-term vigilance and metrics for our organization. But our greatest footprint in this war against disease will be the objectives sent forth and distributed amongst the next generation of Sao Paulo. The objective to increase awareness via open source information will decrease the information gap between the wealthy and the poor. However, some impoverished individuals in this area have a documented reservation of taking assistance from entities such as the Red Cross or religion-based services. In some pockets of the ghettos, there exists a social hierarchy that looks down upon the ideology taking unearned items, especially those that require an element of religious indoctrination to receive. This application will empower those individuals in a far different way, by allowing them to hold ownership over their own lives without having the commonly stigmatized Western strings. The need of allowing prideful people the ability to help themselves is paramount to the dignity our organization seeks to deliver. We expect to see data spikes within our network from the region that will indicate us the use of this application. Consistent data spikes and data access will confirm to our organization through our metrics that our intended results of locals using the service was successful. For the first 6 months after deployment, we intend to see an increase in locals attending clinics mapped within our application. Our organization will remain in contact with these clinics to ensure that this is occurring. During this time, services rendered for treatment of sexually transmitted diseases will also see an increase in Sao Paulo. As individuals gain access to knowledge and resources for aid, they will seek out these treatment facilities. Although it is a difficult metric to follow and worth investing time and effort, is the sale of disposable phones, which are often used as currency in this impoverished area. These phones would be utilized to access our mobile application. Those impacted by sex crimes and diseases are often faced with a stigma that renders them afraid and isolated from help. Both physical and emotional research has shown that individuals inflicted by sexually transmitted diseases die sooner and lead less fulfilling lives. As we transition into a society that is far more educated with mental health, we will see that stigma diminish. This will not happen overnight. It will be a period of growing pain, both for us in the United States as well as Sao Paulo, accompanied by social anxiety. It will have positive dividends upon its completion. Society is ready for the knowledge needed to articulate and to actualize the condition that we strive to face for what it is, and not treat those afflicted by mental disease with disgrace and social separation. By providing societies with facts associated both sexually transmitted diseases and emotional traumas that sex crimes bring, we empower the victims. We expect to see a decrease in suicide rates over 12 years, and we expect to see more individuals partaking in mental health treatment as well. These will be the metrics and outcomes that we will be following as we move forward with our organization and our outreach across the world. Our month one objectives will include completing a SWOT analysis, which will target strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats for our on-site research. We will develop a PFEMA based upon this SWOT analysis. We will notify our key contacts of travel arrangements in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We will ensure these travel arrangements and administration are planned. The international application space will be formally added to our Agile system and into our infrastructure. Our months 2 and 3 objectives include: our medical professional will depart to Sao Paulo, Brazil to begin research. Clinics at that time will be pre-screened. Clinics predetermined to be acceptable will receive liability waivers to be signed prior to being mapped upon our application. Census data and surveys will be collected to determine disease focus. Continuation of the development international model of the application will presume. We will obtain research information entered into our centralized database. International mapping development will also begin. Months 2 and 3 objectives will be the research phase of this project. Our medical professional will be departing to Sao Paulo to begin research. We will also be pre-screening clinics at this time. Months 4 and 8 objectives: XML and HTML linkage between domestic and international applications will occur. Notification via social media that this international expansion will be taking place will be posted, and Rhen will be delivering first domestic keynote speech about this effort. International marketing objectives will also be finalized during this period of time. Months 10 and 11 objectives: the framework of the application to be completed at this point, configuration of testing and assurance will be tested domestically only. Software configuration files to be loaded and reviewed by infrastructure host to validate compatibility and bandwidth surge capacity. Months 12 to 14, Mark Summers to deploy to Sao Paulo to finalize international configuration. Concurrent data to be tested and bandwidth to be monitored in both application models. Finalization of medical revisions and data entry to be completed at this time. Months 15 and 17 objectives include disbursement of disposable preloaded cell phones to primary contacts in Sao Paulo. We will monitor access points and surges in network use during this time, determining user-preferred navigation and trends, and allocating resources accordingly to accommodate to their user preferences. We will conference on current usage metrics, where, when, and how the application is being accessed, and we will maintain contact with our medical professionals to note any trends or changes in the types of disease being seen, as well as the increase or decrease in the request for treatment or testing. In our final month, we will be monitoring all preloaded cell phones from deployment testing phase. Complete continuity testing, framing and analyzing metrics to determine process project success. We will complete a final SWOT analysis, highlighting any open issues. We will be assigning ownership to those issues and assign a timeline between 30, 60, 90, and 180 days, where we will conference to review all those open issues and any other application trends and status. Metrics will be assigned to each organizational member to be followed for the first 6 months of deployment, and will then recede to domestic application review schedule. We will conduct a final PFEMA at this time. PFEMA indicates the product failure affects manufacturing analysis. This will indicate of any shortcomings within the application as of the date of deployment. Here is our project budget for this project. indicating what will be spent in planning, design, research, infrastructure, testing, and deployment. $23,000 will be allocated to planning. The planning will ensure the application meets criteria in line with technical and educational abilities of those targeted for aid. $20,000 will be allocated to design. Primary infrastructure of application design will be based upon our current domestic model. $36,000 for research. International research will include contacting with local healthcare providers. $5,500 for the infrastructure. Domestic application infrastructure will be utilized during this time, will be supported by current bandwidth. Funds will support licensure for international traffic. $13,000 for deployment. Due to the nature of the application, deployment will require international licensure and third-party audits. $2,500 for testing. We will pilot this application by dispensing disposable prepaid phones for impoverished individuals in this location to pilot the user abilities. Myself and my organization, the United Power of Knowledge, thanks you for your time and consideration for support of our project. We hope to unify our organization with yours to bridge a gap of inequality between the haves and the have-nots, because we believe that information and the access to information should not be isolated only to the wealthy. Thank you and goodbye.